From hiring an actual Marine to be his trainer to the intense psychological preparation to understand the character, here's everything Austin Butler shared about his insane preparation for Dune 2. Now, obviously, Austin takes his job seriously, but that might be something of an understatement for his role. In the upcoming Dune Part 2, Butler will portray Feyd-Rautha Harkonnen, the nephew of Baron Harkonnen, who was ominously played by the great Stellan Skarsgård. And if Stellan's performance is anything to go off, Austin has had to work to make his character just as threatening. The actor has come a long way since his humble beginnings on Nickelodeon and Disney. It takes a seriously dedicated actor to play such a range. Having played opposite Miley Cyrus in Hannah Montana, it's hard to believe he could seamlessly transform into such a cruel and vicious character like Feyd-Rautha. In order to achieve this, the actor underwent a harsh training program in order to effectively play the deadly Feyd-Rautha. Working with a former Navy SEAL, Duffy Gaver, to not only build his physique to be imposing, but to give him better control over his body so it would do whatever he asked of it. It sounds like all of this was just the groundwork. Talk about overkill. No, Duffy Gaver is a fitness expert who has also worked with Chris Hemsworth to help him build his godlike physique so he can play Marvel's Thor. And if you've seen Thor, you know this guy's a no-joke. According to Butler, he picked Duffy because he's the real deal, who worked with Brad Pitt prepare for the movie Troy, but he doesn't really keep track of reps. The actor revealed that after intense, God knows how many reps, he would be almost out of breath and could barely do another one. But when he asked Duffy how many more, the guy would just say, "Okay, do 10 more." That's insane. Seems like his approach is to push people to their limits, and because he's so tough, Butler didn't want to let him down either. And he just kept on going until he would throw up. But even after all that, the guy still calls Duffy the nicest guy. I guess he'd have to be if you still wanted to work with him after he pushes you so hard you vomit. Austin spoke about having to manage his tough training whilst doing press for Elvis at the Cannes Film Festival. The actor had to go from training in the morning to discussing his work as the king of rock and roll during the day, before getting right back to his grueling training at night. But it's not like he didn't have to train to play Elvis either. Yes, I'm talking about his dancing and gymnastic routine, which probably helped him build up the stamina he'd need to play Feyd-Rautha. Austin hired Australian trainer Ryan Gambin to help him get in shape like the late singer and work on hip mobility routines to pull off Elvis's famous moves. Gambin was an Olympic swimmer and now works as a strength and conditioning teacher. Seems like Butler's training is seriously world class, and we know Butler really means business when it comes to preparing for a role. Austin made quite a stir with his preparation to play Elvis, isolating himself for many months, hardly speaking to anyone, and when he did, he spoke in his Elvis voice. This affected him so much, he is unsure if he can go back to sounding like he did before he took the role. Let's hope he manages it, or else Arrakis might be in a little trouble. It sounds like Austin is taking his dive into the world of Dune just as seriously. The actor discussed the psychological prep he had to do in order to get himself into the mindset of such a cruel and vicious character. Butler spoke about how it was important for him not to pass judgment on his character, so it wouldn't get in the way of embodying the role. Instead, he talks about the layers to his character. Austin believes that Feyd-Rautha Harkonnen thinks of himself as a hero. But that's not something new, we've seen it 1,000 times. Butler is different though. He actually considers Feyd-Rautha the protagonist, which may be challenging for some to digest. But without giving away too much of the plot, actually makes a fair bit of sense. When you learn how he and Paul Atreides come into conflict, that's a very interesting take on the character, and I'm honestly excited to see how this plays out. Especially when you learn about the other training he had to do for the role. Because Feyd-Rautha is a highly skilled warrior in the world of Dune. Austin had to become a master with a blade. Close quarters combat was a real highlight in Dune Part 1, especially the epic fight scene where Paul fights the Fremen Jamis to death. So if Feyd-Rautha must be really deadly to give Paul a run for his money, Butler wasn't the only actor who was given serious consideration for the role. According to reports, actor Ty Sheridan and Harry Styles were also considered for the part, and fans appeared to push for Barry Keoghan to take on the coveted role of Feyd-Rautha. But it was director Denis Villeneuve who offered Butler the role, even though he didn't audition. I guess Villeneuve really knew what he wanted, and that Austin would be able to deliver. I guess he really appreciated Butler's dedication. All that hip training, the gymnastics, and the tough Marine regime will be on full display in that knife scene. Even though it all sounds incredibly difficult, it really seems like Austin has had a great time on set, especially considering his friendship with Timothée. And honestly, I can't wait to see how he and Timothée interact on screen. Speaking of which, Butler revealed the two got closer off-screen as well. Back in December 2022, Butler made an appearance on the Happy Sad Confused podcast and opened up about the strong bond he had developed with his co-star, Timothée Chalamet. The actor said that he had always been a huge fan of his work and that they bonded almost instantly on set. It was probably because of the fact that there weren't that many people in their age groups, so they just naturally stuck with each other. Butler also revealed that he enjoyed working with Timothée, and the two practically consider each other brothers. It's honestly amazing. The two actors were able to create such a deep bond so quickly. And obviously, considering the kind of fan base they both have, Austin's comments created quite a buzz online. So I wouldn't be surprised if they started shipping the two together. But don't expect them to be this friendly with each other when the sequel arrives later this year. Honestly, I can't wait to see how he and Timothée react on screen, as Butler would want to give this franchise everything he has. During the Academy's Governor Awards, Butler was asked to describe how he felt when he received the call to star in Dune 2. Well, as like any one of us, the actor was thrilled. Turns out Butler is also a huge fan of the first film. The guy even called the first installment a cinematic masterpiece. Honestly, he isn't wrong there. Coming back, the idea of him getting a chance to be a part of that world was incredibly exciting. And according to actor, he felt extremely honored. I absolutely love the fact that he was so humble about getting the opportunity. Butler was also asked what went through his head when he walked onto the set the first day. He replied by saying that it was a surreal experience, kind of like walking onto the set of Indiana Jones or some other movie like that. Butler was so mesmerized that he recalled that all he could do was admire everything around him. I can imagine, the first movie was so great visually, the set would be equally great and more complex. Especially since Part 2 is said to be even bigger and better. But I'm sure he is up for the role. Well, that was everything Austin Butler shared about his insane Dune 2 prep.